The Club of Rome has long been working towards the dividing of the planet into 10 regions for the monitoring of the planet's resources for the Sustainable Development Goals. Edward Pastel and Mihaljo Mesarovic had long worked towards the dividing of the planet into 10 regions and monitoring the planet using computer analysis. In their report, Mankind at the Turning Point, the second report to the Club of Rome, in their report, it says, the second report seeks to show that the world is at the end of an era of independence and that an integrated plan of controlled organic growth is called for to combat recurrent crises. Section 8. Limits to independence. 8.1. Given that global cooperation offers a much more favorable probability for future development than conflict, all nations must face up to the corollary of increasing interdependence, which entails an era of limits to independence. Section 9. A possible solution. 9.1. The computer analysis of the world food problem takes account inter alia of differing regional dietary requirements, the availability of type of food in the various regions, of climate and cultural factors, the lack of essential dietary components, the type of land and amount available, the existing economic and human resources. Section 11. Epilogue. 11.2. A new global ethic is required comprising A. Individual awareness of membership of the world community, B. Responsibility in the use of material resources, and C. A harmonious relationship with nature. In William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale White Horse, released in 1991, there is a Club of Rome report that talks about the 10 divided regions, and specifically mentions Pastel and Mesarovic as the authors. This map released in 1991 is very similar to the map released in 2009 in the Sustainable Development Report. Pastel and Mesarovic is also mentioned in the book Crisis of Global Sustainability by Tapio Kaninen. The Birth and Evolution of the Club of Rome on page 11 talks about the 10 divided regions. In the book Integrated Global Models of Sustainable Development Volume 2, edited by Akiri Anishi in 2009, on page 107, it details these 10 regions. Taking into consideration that the climate change issue is of genuine global character, we need another technologically detailed energy model, which covers all world regions on the globe. In response to this specific need, on the basis of New Earth 21 model, Dynamic New Earth 21 model has been developed with the basic framework described in the following sections. The technological potentials are often constrained by regional factors such as sectoral structure of energy consumption and the availability of natural resources. For a logical and consistent technology assessment, it is necessary to identify energy systems of different world regions. Dynamic New Earth 21 was formulated as a multi-regional model, and the whole world is geopolitically divided into 10 regions as seen in Figure 1. The Global Innovation Exchange.org suggests the system change for Professor Akiri Anishi's model. Creating Electronic United Nations, EUN. Paris Climate Pact in December 2015 was a historical success with 195 nations pledges to reduce the greenhouse gases warming. Their pledges need to be improved significantly with rigorous simulation studies as interlinking their models together via broadband internet as forming the Electronic African Union and ultimately the Electronic United Nations. This will provide regular and transparent global cooperation with collective and shared responsibilities in democratic fashion. The goal here for the sustainable development is to make every individual accountable for both their environmental impact and their economic impact in the 10 regions, and to have them tracked by artificial intelligence. TechRepublic.com. United Nations CITO. Artificial intelligence will be humanity's final innovation. The United Nations Chief Information Technology Officer spoke with Tech Republic about the future of cybersecurity, social media, and how to fix the internet and build global technology for social good. Artificial intelligence, said United Nations Chief Information Technology Officer Atifa Rizi, might be the last innovation humans create. Quote, the next innovations, end of quote, said the cabinet-level diplomat during a recent interview at her office at UN headquarters in New York, quote, will come through artificial intelligence, end of quote. Quote, from our perspective, our mission is really peace and security, development of human rights. The UN has a number of responsibilities. We have peacekeeping, human rights, humanitarian affairs, and sustainable development, end of quote. This will be the excuse to be able to track and monitor everything for these regions. The Club of Rome has been working directly with the Vatican on these projects. Hans Joachim Schellenhuber, a Club of Rome member, is closely working as an advisor to the Pope Francis on the climate change agenda. Schellenhuber helped Pope Francis draft Laudato Si for the climate change agenda. This became the Sustainable Development Guidelines that were implemented by Barack Hussein Obama and Pope Francis at the United Nations in September of 2015. The role of Obama and Pope Francis were key figures in establishing the Sustainable Development Goals at the September 2015 United Nations meeting. The Sustainable Development Goals established by Barack Obama and Pope Francis at the United Nations are the laws that govern over the 10 kingdoms, these 10 regions. Within the 10 regions, Pope Francis and Obama are both working towards the hubs of the smart cities within the 10 regions. C40.org. Global Mayors, Pope Find Common Purpose, July 21, 2015. Following the launch of the encyclical letter on the care for our common home, Laudato Si, and in the lead up to the Paris Climate Change Conference, Pope Francis today convened more than 60 local leaders from around the world, including 20 C40 mayors, to discuss the pressing topics of climate change and sustainable development in cities. These smart cities will be used as hubs for the artificial intelligence harvesting information within the 10 regions. Barack Obama is working directly with Pope Francis on the smart cities. Whitehouse.gov. Administration announced new Smart Cities initiative to help communities tackle local challenges and improve city services September 14, 2015. This is the infrastructure for the 10 kingdoms. Barack Obama and Pope Francis at the United Nations Sustainable Development Summit in 2015 established a technology facilitation mechanism. The technology facilitation mechanism calls for a scientific solution to meet all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in all of the 10 regions. In January, the United Nations established a 10-member group to support the technology facilitation mechanism. This 10-member group is tasked with supporting the technology facilitation mechanism and establishing the scientific solution to meet all of the Sustainable Development Goals in all of the 10 regions. The current rotation of the 10-member group are not the 10 kings, but this is the seat of the 10 kings. The 10 science czars have no kingdom as of yet, but they will be given power over the 10 regions when they back the solution to meet all of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the mark of the beast, the global ID implant. These 10 science czars have one mind. They are all corporately working towards finding a scientific solution to meet all of the Sustainable Development Goals in the 10 regions. They will give their power over the 10 regions and support the beast. This hour mentioned in Revelation chapter 17 verse 12 is the hour that the mark of the beast is introduced. This is the same hour mentioned in Revelation chapter 3 verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Those who are anchored in Christ will not receive the mark of the beast, and we will not be tempted.
President Barack Obama called the scientists.
Barack Obama at the United Nations conference in Paris, talking about the sustainable development, is seen using words that are identical to the Bible prophecy talking about the mark of the beast.
Our understanding of the ways human beings disrupt the climate advances by the day. No nation, large or small, wealthy or poor, 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 is immune to what this means.
The mark of the beast is seen in Revelation chapter 13 verse 16 and 17. The mark of the beast is the scientific solution to meet all of the Sustainable Development Goals. This scientific technology will be found in the hand and in the forehead. The mark of the beast is the biometric implant ID into the hand, which is a solution for the Sustainable Development Goal 16. Their goal is to have the global ID identify people to the artificial intelligence, while the brain chips inside the forehead will give people access to artificial intelligence amplification through internet directly into their head. The global accountability mechanism for resource tracking for everybody on the planet for the Sustainable Development Goals is why we see in Revelation chapter 13 verse 16, the Bible prophecies say, causeth all, both small and great. Everybody in society must comply to the global responsibility through their tracking of their resources through the mark of the beast. Both small consumers and large corporations must comply with this. The Sustainable Development Goal number 1 is eradicating poverty, and this is why we see the Bible prophecies say both rich and poor are required to take the mark of the beast. The sustainable development is said to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. The Identification for Development program working through the World Bank and the United Nations for the Sustainable Development Goal 16 is establishing a global economic monitoring system under the excuse of eradicating terrorism in Goal 16A. This move is setting up a digital economy that will be tracked through the Global ID implant. BetterThanCash.org. The Better Than Cash Alliance is a partnership of governments, companies, and international organizations that accelerates the transition from cash to digital payments in order to reduce poverty and drive inclusive growth. Based at the United Nations, the Alliance has over 50 members, works closely with other global organizations, and is an implementing partner for the G20 Global Partnership for Financial Inclusion. The Alliance is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Citi Foundation, Ford Foundation, MasterCard, Omidyar Network, United States Agency for International Development, and Visa. The United Nations Capital Development Fund serves as its secretariat. This transition from cash to digital payments through the biometric ID implant is the reason why in the digital economy you will not be able to buy or sell without the mark. Eradicating human trafficking, which is modern-day slavery, is a part of Sustainable Development Goal 5, Sustainable Development Goal 8, and Sustainable Development Goal 16. Radio Vaticana.va. Pope and mayors signed Declaration on Climate and Trafficking, July 22, 2015. The signing of the document followed a meeting Tuesday afternoon at the Vatican between Pope and the mayors who are attending a 2-day workshop entitled, quote, Modern Slavery and Climate Change, end of quote, organized by the Chancellor of the Pontifical Academies of Science and Social Sciences. Radio Vaticana. Pope Francis addresses Judges Summit on Human Trafficking and Organized Crime, June 3, 2016. Pope Francis went on to say that the reason for the Judges Summit was to help fulfill Goal 8.7 of the United Nations' new Sustainable Development Goals, that is, to eradicate forced labor, modern slavery, and human trafficking. The Global ID implant will be promoted as the scientific solution to eradicate modern-day slavery. This is why the Bible prophecy of the mark of the beast mentions both free and bond, both free and slave. The warning about taking the mark of the beast is clear. Revelation chapter 14, verse 9 and 10. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. In the Pope's encyclical Laudato Si for the Sustainable Development, he calls for a global political authority to manage over the world's economy. As Benedict XVI has affirmed in his continuity with the social teaching of the Church, quote, to manage the global economy, to revive economies hit by the crisis, to avoid any deterioration of the present crisis and the greater imbalances that would result, to bring about integral and timely disarmament, food security and peace, to guarantee the protection of the environment and to regulate migration. For all this, there is urgent need of a true world political authority. End of quote.
First of all, the integration of national economies into a global economy. That's here. That's done. And so the question is not whether or not there's going to be a international global economy. There is one.
United Nations and Russia are working towards the dividing of the land for the two-state solution. The European Union is also working with the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, 57 Islamic states that are working towards a global caliphate. Pope Francis has met with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in order to deal with the matters about Jerusalem. ChristianToday.com. Secretary General Nsonglu shared a vision for a historic reconciliation between Islam and Christianity in order to establish harmony in areas torn apart by war. The Pope praised this and underlined the importance of ensuring that practical steps are taken to see this vision become a reality. Particular attention was paid to the situation in Palestine, perhaps most significantly Jerusalem, which is the center of many conflicts between followers of Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. The leaders expressed hope that Jerusalem would become a city where Jews, Christians, and Muslims were able to live and worship in harmony. The Pope continues to take the Roman power structure and unite with Islam in order to get Jerusalem. The Muslim world also supported Barack Hussein Obama and Pope Francis in their encyclical and the Sustainable Development Goals through their Islamic Declaration for Climate Change. This mingling of the 10 kingdoms with Islam is found in the Bible prophecy about the final kingdom. In the book of Daniel, it describes this final kingdom of 10 regions. It describes these 10 regions as 10 toes in the feet of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar saw.